Transgender women will be banned from professional and semi-professional cricket in England following a review of the sport's trans inclusion policy. However, anyone who identifies as female will still be able to play in women's and girls' grassroots competition. Let's speak to Fiona McAnena. Have I got that right, Fiona? Good afternoon. McAnena, Director of Campaigns at Sex Matters. I've got another suggestion, Fiona, on this story. Why don't we just get, like, blokes to play the male game and women to play the female game? Then everything's sorted, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think that would be an obvious thing. It's how we used to do it.
Yeah.
And then it was decided that men who identify as women, which is what they mean when they say transgender women, they mean people who are male, who say they're women, they decided that their feelings really mattered and that wasn't enough for them to be able to play cricket. They had to be affirmed as women. And so for years, the ECB have had a policy of self-ID. In other words, you just turn up and say you're a woman and that gets you in. Now, as you know, sports are rolling back from that because it's clearly unfair. And in some sports, it's actually dangerous. And in cricket, there is a danger and there have been injuries. And these have been reported in some cases to the ECB. And what's really disappointing here is that the ECB have recognised the problems and they've said, OK, a few women can have fairness, but the vast majority cannot. And what people might not realise is what they're talking about here is about 1% of their female players getting fair, safe cricket now, and about 99% will not. Yeah. So for every woman in this tier 1, tier 2 that's going to be fair, there'll be 100 other women and girls who could turn up and see a male player, an adult male player on the other side. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre...
Yeah, it is. Is it even 1% as well, just to compound your point?
Yeah, well, we don't really know, do we? But certainly the bigger the sport, the bigger the problem. And they're trying to grow women and girls cricket. And yet, if you have teenage girls not knowing whether they're going to be facing not just a teenage boy, but perhaps an adult male bowling at them, this is pretty terrifying. So it can only deter women and girls from playing cricket. And it's a really clear message as well from the ECB that says, do you know what? Your feelings don't matter as much as their feelings. In fact, your safety doesn't matter as much as their feelings.
Correct. And the other strange thing about this is that this is a classic case, Fiona, and you would have seen this time and time again, where hardly anyone is calling for this. Just a very few voices that are very loud and a very few official bodies who are scared witless of being accused of an ism or an obia of some sort seem to go, well, we better, based on no science at all, by the way, and that's the thing that I think riles all of us on this, or should do. So we're talking, small groups, small numbers, but somehow, that phrase punching well above their weight springs to mind, who are succeeding in getting laws changed.
Yes, and we're now, for a long time, there was a culture of silencing anyone who opposed that, and we're now finding we can sometimes be heard. And the sports that have gone and consulted their members have, without exception, found that the vast majority do not want male players in the female category. They want them to be accepted and welcomed, however they want to present, but they also want to protect fairness for women and girls. I don't know if cricket has consulted its players, but if it had, it would get a very clear message. I suspect they probably don't want to hear what that message is, because, as you say, they've decided that this small minority matter more. I don't know why they've made that decision. They're increasingly going to have a problem now, because all the trans-identifying males who now can't do cycling races and running races and play rugby are going to find themselves turning to those sports that still allow them on a self-ID basis to come and play with women.
The fact that the transgender women will be banned from professional and semi-professional women's cricket in England following that review, but then it says anyone who identifies as female will still be able to play in women and girls cricket. Are you able to make that distinction? It seems...
Yeah, well, you can't really. The reason that's happened is because the International Cricket Council did a review a year ago and said, well, actually, we can be as welcoming as we like, but we cannot allow people born male to play women's cricket. And so the ECB has taken a year to figure out that means there is no fairness in having a talent pathway for female cricketers that then comes to a grinding halt if you have young males who think they're great cricketers and they come through the women's game and then they can't progress. So they've aligned the top end of their game, the pro end of their game, with the international rules, but they've left all the rest behind, and that's going to create huge problems. It already is creating problems.
Indeed. Well, listen, it won't be the last time we speak on this, I'm sure. Fiona, great to have you on. Thank you. Fiona McAnena, Director of Campaigns at Sex Matters.